Hi everyone, this is Arnold in my home in Newark with my little bear representing Winnie the Pooh. And we're here to read chapter 7 in the Winnie the Pooh book, in which Kanga and Baby Roo come to the forest and Piglet has a bath. Okay, Pooh, we're going to be reading now. Nobody seemed to know where they came from, but they were in the forest, Kanga and Baby Roo. When Pooh asked Christopher Robin, "How did they come here?" Christopher Robin said, "In the usual way, if you know what I mean, Pooh." And Pooh, who didn't, said, "Oh." Then he nodded his head twice and said, "In the usual way." Ah. Then he went to call upon his friend Piglet to see what he thought about it. And at Piglet's house he found Rabbit. So they all talked about it together. "What I don't like about it is this," said Rabbit. "Here are we, you Pooh and you Piglet, and me and Suddenly." "And Eeyore," said Pooh. "And Eeyore, and then Suddenly." "And Owl," said Pooh. And there they are in the 100-acre wood talking together. And Owl. And all of a sudden, "Oh, and Eeyore," said Pooh. "I was forgetting him." "Here we are," said Rabbit, very slowly and carefully. "All of us." Then suddenly we wake up one morning, and what do we find? We find a strange animal among us. An animal who carries her family with her in her pocket. Suppose I carried my family about with me in my pocket. How many pockets would I have?" 16, said Piglet. 17, isn't it?" said Rabbit. "And one more for a handkerchief, that's 18. 18 pockets in one suit. I haven't time." There was a long and thoughtful silence, and then Pooh, who had been frowning very hard for several minutes, said, "I make 15. "What?" said Rabbit. 15. 15 what?" "Your family." "What about them?" Pooh rubbed his nose and said that he thought Rabbit had been talking about his family. "Did I?" said Rabbit carelessly. "Yes, you said." "Never mind, Pooh," said Piglet impatiently. "The question is, what are we going to do about Kanga?" "Oh, I see," said Pooh. "The best way," said Rabbit, "would be this. The best way would be to steal Baby Roo and hide him. And then when Kanga says, 'Where's Baby Roo?' we say, 'Aha!'" "Aha," said Pooh, practicing. "Aha! Aha!" "Of course," he went on, we could say, 'Aha!' even if we hadn't stolen Baby Roo." "Pooh," said Rabbit kindly, "you haven't any brain." "I know," said Pooh humbly. "We say 'aha' so that Kanga knows that we know where Baby Roo is. And 'aha' means we'll tell you where Baby Roo is if you promise to go away from the forest and never come back. Now, don't talk about it for a while, I think." Pooh went into a corner and tried saying "aha" in that voice. Sometimes it seemed to him that it did mean what Rabbit said, and sometimes it seemed to him that it didn't. "I suppose it's just practice," he thought. "I wonder if Kanga will have to practice too to understand us." "There's just one thing," said Piglet, fidgeting a little. "I was talking to Christopher Robin, and he said Kanga was generally regarded as one of the fiercer animals. I'm not frightened of fierce animals in an ordinary way, but it is well known that if one of the fiercer animals deprived of its young, it becomes fierce as two of the fiercer animals, in which case, aha, is perhaps a foolish thing to say. Piglet, said Rabbit, taking out a pencil and licking it at its end. You haven't any pluck. It's hard to be brave, said Piglet, stiffening slightly, when you're only a very small animal. Rabbit, who began to write very busily, looked up and said, It's because you're a very small animal that you'll be useful in this adventure before us. And here we have Rabbit and Piglet and Pooh. And you see Rabbit writing on his piece of paper, coming up with his plan to steal Baby Roo from his mother. Doesn't sound like a nice idea. Piglet was so excited at the idea of being useful that he'd forgotten to be frightened anymore. And when Rabbit went to say that Kanga was the only fierce during the winter months, being at other times an affectionate disposition, he could hardly sit still. He was so eager to be useful at once. What about me, said Pooh sadly. I suppose I shan't be useful. Never mind, Pooh, said Piglet comfortably. Another time, perhaps. Without Pooh, said Rabbit solemnly as he dropped his pencil, the adventure would be impossible. Oh, said Piglet, and tried not to look disappointed. But Pooh went into a corner of the room and said proudly to himself, Impossible without me. That sort of bear. Now listen, all of you, said Rabbit, when he had finished writing, and Pooh and Piglet sat listening very eagerly with their mouths open. This is what Rabbit read out loud. Plan to capture Baby Roo. 1. General remarks. Kanga runs faster than any of us, even me. 2. More general remarks. Kanga never takes her eye off Baby Roo, except when he's safely buttoned up in her pocket. 3. Therefore, if we're to capture Baby Roo, we must get a long start, because Kanga runs faster than any of us, even me. C1. A thought. If Roo had jumped out of Kanga's pocket and Piglet had jumped in, Kanga wouldn't know the difference because Piglet is a very small animal. 5. Like Roo. 6. But Kanga would have to be looking the other way first so as not to see Piglet jumping in. 7. C2. Another thought. If Pooh was talking to her very excitedly, she might look the other way for a moment. 9. I could then run away with Roo. 10. Quickly. 11. And Kanga wouldn't discover the difference until afterwards. Well, Rabbit read this out proudly, and for a while after he had read it, nobody said anything. And then Piglet, who had been opening and shutting his mouth without making any noise, managed to say very huskily, And afterwards? How do you mean? When Kanga does discover the difference, then we say, ah. And there's Rabbit reading to Pooh and Piglet his plan with 9 different points to it. Think it's going to work? Find out. All 3 of us? Yes. Oh. What's the trouble, Piglet? Nothing. As long as we all 3 say it. As long as we all 3 say it, said Piglet. I don't mind, but I shouldn't care to say ah by myself. It wouldn't quite sound nearly so well. By the way, you are quite sure about what you said about the winter months? The winter months? Yes, only being fierce in the winter months. Oh, yes, that's all right. Well, Pooh, you see what you have to do. No, said Pooh. Not yet. What do I do? Well, you just have to talk very hard to Kanga so she doesn't notice anything. Oh, what about? Anything you like? You mean like telling her a bit of poetry or something? That's it. Splendid. Now come along. So they all went to look for Kanga. Kanga and Roo were spending quite an afternoon in the sandy part of the forest. Baby Roo was practicing very small jumps in the sand and falling down mouse holes and climbing out of them, and Kanga was fidgeting about saying, "Just one more jump, dear, and then we must go home." And at that moment, who should come stomping up the hill but Pooh. "Good afternoon, Kanga." "Good afternoon, Pooh." Look at me jumping," squealed Roo, and he fell into another mouse hole. And there's Roo falling into the mouse hole with his mother, Kanga, right on top, making sure he's nice and safe. "Hello, Roo, my little fellow. We were just going home," said Kanga. "Good afternoon, Rabbit. Good afternoon, Piglet." Rabbit and Piglet, who had come from the other side of the hill, said, "Good afternoon." "Good afternoon, Roo." And Roo asked them to look at him jumping, so they stayed and looked. And Kanga looked too. "Oh, Kanga," said Pooh, after Rabbit had winked at him twice, "I don't know if you're interested in poetry." "Hardly at all." "Oh," said Pooh, "Roo dear, just one more jump and then we must go home." There was a short silence while Roo fell down another mouse hole. "Go on," said Rabbit in a loud whisper behind his paw. "Talking of poetry," said Pooh, "I made up this little piece as I was coming here. It went like this. Let me see now." "Fancy," said Kanga. "Now, Roo dear." "You like this piece of poetry," said Rabbit. "You love it," said Piglet. "You must listen very carefully," said Rabbit. "So as not to miss any of it," said Piglet. "Oh, yes," said Kanga, but she still looked at Baby Roo. "How did it go, Pooh?" said Rabbit. Pooh gave a little cough and began. "Lines written by a bear of a very little brain. On Monday when the sun is hot, I wonder to myself a lot. Now, is it true or is it not, that what is which and which is what? On Tuesday when it hails and snows, the feeling on me grows and grows. That feeling hardly anybody knows, if those are these or these are those. On Wednesday when the sky is blue, and I have nothing else to do, I sometimes wonder, is it true that who is what and what is who? On Thursday when it starts to freeze and hoarfrost twinkles on the trees, how very readily one sees that these are whose, but whose are these? On Friday, yes it is, isn't it?" said Kanga, not waiting to hear what happens on Friday. "Just one more jump, Roo dear, and then we really must be going." Rabbit gave Pooh a hurrying up sort of nudge. "Talk of poetry," said Pooh quickly. "Have you ever noticed that tree over there?" "Where?" said Kanga. "Now, Roo." "Right over there," said Pooh, pointing behind Kanga's back. "No," said Kanga. "Now jump in, Roo dear, and we'll go home." And there's Rabbit and Pooh and Piglet talking to Kanga. And "You ought to look at that tree right over there," said Rabbit. "Shall I lift you in, Roo?" And he picked up Roo in his paws. "I can see a bird in front from here," said Pooh. "Or is it a fish?" ought to see that bird from here, said Rabbit, unless it's a fish. Fish in a tree? It isn't a fish, it's a bird, said Piglet. So it is, said Rabbit. Is it a starling or a blackbird, said Pooh. That's the whole question, said Rabbit. Is it a blackbird or a starling? Then at last Kanga did turn her head to look, and the moment that her head was turned, Rabbit said in a loud voice, "In you go, Roo." And in jumped Piglet into Kanga's pocket, and off scampered Rabbit with Roo in his paws as fast as he could. Why, where's Rabbit? Said Kanga. Are you all right, Roo dear? Piglet made a squealing Roo noise from the bottom of Kanga's pocket. Rabbit had to go away, said Pooh. I think he thought of something he had to do and see about suddenly. And Piglet? I think Piglet thought of something at the same time suddenly. Well, we must be going home, said Kanga. Goodbye, Pooh. And in 3 large jumps she was gone. Pooh looked after her as she went. I wish I could jump like that, he thought. Some can and some can't. That's how it is. But there were moments when Piglet wished that Kanga couldn't. Often when he had a long walk home through the forest, he wished that he were a bird. But now he thought jerkily to himself at the bottom of Kanga's pocket, this, if it is shall really to flying, I never, and he went into the air and said, and as he came down, he said, ow, and as he was saying, oh, ow, oh, all the way to Kanga's house. And there's Kanga jumping with poor Piglet in his pocket, who's not used to all that jumping. Of course, as soon as Kanga unbuttoned her pocket, she saw what had happened. Just for a moment, she thought she was frightened, and then she knew she wasn't, for she felt quite sure that Christopher Robin would never let any harm happen to Roo. So she said to herself, if they're having a joke with me, I'll have a joke with them. What do we think Kanga's going to do to have a joke with Pooh and Piglet and Rabbit? Now then, Roo dear, she said, as she took Piglet out of her pocket, bedtime. Oh, she's making believe that Piglet really is. Wow. Said Piglet, as he could after his terrifying journey. But it wasn't a very good and Kanga didn't seem to understand what it meant. Bath time, said Kanga in a cheerful voice. And there's Kanga getting Piglet ready for the bath, making believe that Piglet is really Baby Roo. Said Piglet, again looking around anxiously for the others, but they weren't there. Rabbit was playing with Baby Roo in his own house and feeling very fond of him every moment. And Pooh, who decided to be a Kanga, was still at the sandy place at the top of the forest practicing jumping. I'm not all sure, said Kanga in a thoughtful voice, that it wouldn't be a good idea to have a cold bath this morning. Would you like that, Roo dear? Piglet, who had never been very fond of baths, shuddered a long, indignant shudder and said in a brave voice as he can, Kanga, I see the time has come to speak plainly. Funny little Roo, said Kanga as she got the bath water ready. I'm not Roo, said Piglet loudly. I am Piglet. Oh, yes, dear, yes, said Kanga soothingly. and imitating Piglet's voice too. So clever of him. She went on and she took a large bar of yellow soap out of the cupboard. What will he be doing next? Can't you see? Shouted Piglet. Haven't you got eyes? Look at me. I am looking, Roo dear, said Kanga rather severely. And you know what I told you yesterday about making faces? If you go on making faces like Piglet, you grow up to look like Piglet, and then think how sorry you will be, and then into the bath, and don't let me have to speak about it again. And before he knew where he was, Piglet was in the bath, and Kanga was scrubbing him firmly with a large leathery flannel. And there is Kanga scrubbing Piglet. I think Piglet's probably sorry he got into this situation. Out! Cried Piglet. Let me out! I'm Piglet! Don't open the mouth, dear, or the soap goes in, said Kanga. There, what'd I tell you? You did it on purpose, spluttered Piglet as soon as he could speak again, and then accidentally had another mouthful of the leathery flannel. That's right, dear. Don't say anything, said Kanga. In another moment, Piglet was out of the bath and being rubbed dry with a towel. Now, said Kanga, there's your medicine and then bed. What medicine? Said Piglet. To make you grow big and strong, dear. You don't want to grow up small and weak like Piglet, do you? Well then, at that moment, there was a knock on the door. Come in, said Kanga, and in came Christopher Robin. And, there's Christopher Robin looking at Kanga and Piglet after Piglet has gotten a bath and dried off. Christopher Robin, cried Piglet. Tell Kanga who I am. She keeps saying I'm Roo. I'm not Roo, am I? Christopher Robin looked at him very carefully and shook his head. You can't be Roo, he said, because I just seen Roo playing in Rabbit's house. Well, said Kanga, fancy that. Fancy my making a mistake like that. There you are, said Piglet. I told you, I'm Piglet. Christopher Robin shook his head again. Oh, you're not Piglet, he said. I know Piglet, and he's quite a different color. Piglet began to say this was because he had just had a bath, and then thought that perhaps he shouldn't say that. And as he opened his mouth to say something else, Kanga slipped the medicine spoon in and then patted him on the back and told him that it was really quite a nice taste when you got used to it. I knew it wasn't Piglet. I wonder who it can be. Perhaps it's some relation of Pooh's, said Christopher Robin. What about a nephew or an uncle or something? Kang agreed that's probably what it was and said that they would have to call it by some name. I should call it Poohtel, said Christopher Robin. Henry Poohtel for short. And just when it was decided, Henry Poohtel wriggled out of Kanga's arms and jumped to the ground. To his great joy, Christopher Robin had left the door open. Never had Henry Poohtel Piglet run so fast as he ran then, and he didn't stop running until he got quite close to his house. But when he was 100 yards away, he stopped running and rolled the rest of the way home. So to get to his home in a nice, comfortable color. And there you see Piglet rolling in the dust. So he's going to be his own color again. And everything that was washed off of him would be back on. So Kanga and Roo stayed in the forest. And every Tuesday, Roo spent the day with his great friend Rabbit. And every Tuesday, Kanga spent the day with her great friend Pooh, teaching him to jump. And every Tuesday, Piglet spent the day with his great friend Christopher Robin, So they were all happy again. And that's the end of the story of Kanga and Baby Roo and how they got to be accepted in the forest with all the other animals. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll do another story again next week.